Hey everyone, it's Joe Waxman. Hey, it's been a while. I haven't seen you guys in a while, and yeah, I just wanted to make another video. Been thinking about it for a while. Wasn't sure what to say in the video because, well, one thing is that I'm taking a break from making astrology videos, so I wasn't sure how I was gonna what kind of video I was going to make, and I don't know how long it's going to be, but I just feel the pull to go in a different direction for now. Part of the reason for that is astrologically related. In 2020, when I started doing astrology videos, I talked about this before, but I'll reiterate it for anyone who didn't watch those videos. In 2020, I had a solar return year where Venus was retrograde in Gemini. And so with the Venus star cycle, it'll go through, it's going through Gemini every 4 years, obviously. And so in those solar return years, I have a big shift. And so in the retrograde, that's when I started making astrology videos. I was already studying astrology before then, but um, a long time before then. But yeah, so and then 2024, uh, if you recall the astrology of June, Venus was in Gemini direct, right? And so actually this year on my solar return cycle, Venus was Cazimi the sun. So this should be, and it is, turning out to be a very impactful year, right? There was a lot of things that were very difficult and still are, but it's been a very challenging time, but also one of great learning and growth, right? So that's part of it. And so I want to just tell you guys what basically happened. I'm not going to get too detailed. I'm going to leave some things out because they're just too personal. But so yeah, after I stopped making videos, there's a lot of difficult stuff. Um, Nothing is really resolved yet. I've just been scraping by, managing. Um, but so for some reason, I can't remember what instigated it. I started watching videos of NDEs, near-death experiences, and I just became hooked, and I'm still watching them. And it's not that I didn't know about them before, it's just that something compelled me to start watching videos about NDEs. That was totally inspiring, totally, gave me a much bigger, fuller picture of what the afterlife is like, what heaven's like, and it's different for different people, and we literally make our own heaven or hell by our belief systems, right? And so it's not one thing or the other. But yeah, I mean, just that alone, like if you have any interest in spirituality, you should definitely listen to like a bunch of NDE experiences. Like they're all coming out now. And one of the reasons for that is apparently there's so many of them because God, the spirit world, the heavens, they want us to know about it, right? A lot of times they bring people up and they show them around and they're like, your mission now is to talk about this, right? And to tell people there is no death. God is real, heaven is real, right? And all these things are real, right? So that seems to be one of the things that they're trying to do in order to elevate the consciousness of life on Earth, right? God wants to, uh, I don't want to oversimplify it. I think it's much more than God. I think some like I hear a lot of stuff about like the planet itself is on an ascension path of ascension, and it's rare, and it's I mean, you know, it's hard to say anything concretely because um different people will have different perceptions and interpretations of all these things. But anyway, the earth and humanity itself seem to be going through some kind of great awakening, and the heavens, the spiritual beings, God, and all the rest want to help elevate humanity and bring us to a higher consciousness, higher vibration. So that's why a lot of these people are being taken, shown all the heavenly architecture and infrastructure and and all the heavenly beings, right? God, Jesus, all the other ones too, right? It's not just, Jesus for the Christians out there. Jesus is definitely a big player, but it's there's so much, right? Different people see different things based on what their own spiritual evolution, and their own belief systems, right? And what their destiny is, right? Here on Earth. So there's that. So yeah, I highly recommend going watching some NDEs because they can really change your paradigm about life on Earth and spirituality, God, religion, all of it. What came out of that is that um, I started to pray because number one, I was like, a lot of my doubts were uh removed, right? Like I realized like, oh, just how powerful prayer is. And it's not like I didn't believe in God or the spirituality or anything like that before. It's just that this really drove it home for some reason. It's not, and it's also not that I even didn't listen to NDEs before. I was aware of them. I knew they existed. I just wasn't aligned with it. It just wasn't my time to really dive deep into that area, right? And so one of the things, so I started to pray out loud. And I like doing it out loud because it's more concrete, right? It's more committal. Like you can think thoughts and they're just very ethereal. It's like, oh, I didn't really mean that thought. Like that was a random thought. Don't listen to that one. But like if you're saying words, you have to be very deliberate with those words, right? So I try and when I pray, I also meditate, right? I have a very active meditation practice, but prayer and meditation are two different things. Prayer is like the speaking, meditation is like the listening, and they complement each other, right? You need to speak, but you also need to listen, right? Afterwards, if you're asking a question to God, then you need to listen for the answer, right? So meditation is really important as well. But yeah, so speaking prayer, and then also I realized like one of the main things that God and the angels in heaven want is for us to have good relationships here on earth. Like that's really important. And so I started looking at all my relationships. I'm like, I they could definitely use some work. So I started praying about my relationships and started like even if I didn't have the manifestation of good relationships here on earth with certain people, at least I could do my part and in prayer, in spirit, forgive them, ask them for forgiveness for things I may have done, and work it out on my side, right? Maybe they're not ready for that, but I can do my part, right? And even praying for people who maybe I don't want to say like enemy, but like I have some sort of disagreement with, right? Like I may not agree with them about this, but or I may not like something that somebody did, but I can pray for them because that's for me. That's a load off my heart. And one of the reasons I started diving really deep into this is because I realized that my life is a reflection of me, right? There's nobody else to blame. I'm not, I can't be a victim because I just don't believe in that. It's just not real. Like I know we choose our life. We choose our life before we're born. Everything is chosen. That's one of the things that's really hard for some people to also take in. That's probably why they don't want to listen to NDEs because we choose everything. And if you realize you choose everything, then you can't be a victim anymore. You can't, people create an identity out of victimhood and, they're highly reluctant to give up that identity. So they want to hold on to their victimhood as much as possible and be like, no, that person did me wrong and I'm a victim because of that and I need the victim card because that gets me stuff. I can buy stuff with my victim card. Right? It's like a credit card. I'm a victim. I'm allowed. And it's a credit card for entitlement. It entitles them to, all sorts of, behavioral stuff that you know ridiculous stuff that they wouldn't have an excuse for otherwise. But because they're a victim, they can be like, I deserve this because I'm a victim, right? None of that's true, right? When we want to get real with ourselves and just get down to the truth, that we're not victims, right? That's a lie, right? So I'm not a victim, and I know I chose my life, and therefore my life is a reflection of me, right? Like so like I chose a lot of it, but also like how I perceive everything that's happening to me and a lot of the details, fill in the blanks, right, is controlled by my own attitude and what I'm carrying around with me. So I needed to do a lot of the work. So that's why I was like, okay, you know what? I have to pray for everyone because I need to heal, right? I need to heal. I need to get better. I need my life to get better. This is not a joke anymore, right? I'm 48. This is my life, and I don't want to waste it, right? So I'm going to heal as much as I can. I'm going to do my part, and I'm going to pray for everyone. So I prayed for everyone. I pray for everyone. I pray out loud. I pray for People who I don't like, I pray for people who I love, right? Pray for everyone. And that changes also. That changes my attitude towards the people who I, don't like. It's just a reflection of me, really. Like if I don't like someone, it's a reflection of me and my heart, what I'm holding on to, the negativity, right? So that's all me. I have to, it's all an inside job. So I did that. I started praying for people. And I started praying for the world, and I started praying for everything, right? Everything that I wanted for the world and all this stuff. And I also pray for myself, right? And my family. And um, but yeah, I pray for all kinds of stuff. Then what happened? Um, I started meditating more. But the problem I had was that my meditations were not very successful because I would get sleepy about half hour into it, always, right? I liked meditation and I've done it for years, just not as frequently as I could have because it would always just be like, well, I just don't want to go to sleep right now, right? Because that's where it would be like 15, 20, half hour, you know, maybe even 40 minutes if I'm like feeling extra energetic, but then I would get super tired, right? And it's like, no, I don't. I do that at the end of the day when I go want to go to bed. I have a good night's sleep, meditate before I get tired, go to sleep, right? Then some events happened. Um, I think I prepped myself for this, but I had like a huge awakening experience. Another one. I've had previous ones, but this one was like huge heart expansion, right? And um I was for a little while I was like what I want to call like in my mastery, right? Which is like it was like I got to witness my true self, my authentic self, my higher self, right? And it kind of completely shattered a lot of my illusions about who I thought I was, not like on an intellectual way, but an experiential way, right? This is not something like you can talk about. This is something you have to feel and experience. It just completely destroyed so much of, what I was holding on to. Um, in a wonderful way, but it's not always easy because what happened after that, about a week later, all that energy just sort of um, hardened and it woke up, but it became very painful around me. And for a little while, it was clamping down on my heart so much. Every action has an opposite equal reaction, right? I had a huge heart expansion, self-realization, and then the remainder of my ego, you could say, clenched down so hard, like right all over my body, my head, my throughout my torso, but like specifically the worst part was around my heart because it was really painful, like physically, but also mentally, emotionally. Like I just couldn't, I felt like I couldn't breathe. It was so tight. Um, that came to a head, and I freaked out one day, and it wasn't anything big. Like I was just like, getting really emotional and I cried a lot and freaked out, and then it got better. Um, the thing that happened after that, the big realization and heart expansion, self-realization, is that first of all, a lot of egoic debris left my system, right? And a pain that was deep, buried deep in my heart was uprooted, right? It was like thorns at the bottom of my heart that I couldn't get to, right? It was just completely taken out. And my heart felt like for that first week afterwards, I was like just like on cloud nine. I was so happy because that pain was removed and I was just sitting so quietly, so silently. And the tiredness was gone too. All that tiredness, all that sleepiness, like I still, and this didn't change. Even now I can meditate for long periods of time and not get tired, right? That completely changed. And that was like for decades, that was my reality, right? This heavy tiredness. And what it was just like old trauma that was just asleep inside me. That, sleepy consciousness is sleepy, right? When you have too much um, trauma, some of it's going to be asleep. It's not fully asleep, but it's partially asleep, right? It's like consciousness that's just sleeping because you don't want to feel all that pain. You can't function with that much pain, right? If all that pain was awake in me, I would not be able to function. I would just be dying all the time. I would be like crying, dying, like, give me drugs, right? Get me out of here. Like, I can't do this, right? So some of it goes to sleep just so you can, function, right? Yeah, and it still has an effect on you. It's not gone. It's still like subtly influencing your subconscious mind, right? but it's numb. You're not in pain, right? But then if you make some room, some of that or all of it is going to wake up, and it's going to be like, I was asleep, but it's like a cue. It's like, okay, finally I'm arrived in the consciousness center. Like, okay, now I can be conscious. And what am I? I'm pain. I'm full of pain and fear and negativity, right? Because I didn't get a chance to evolve. I was just on hold for all that time, right? So I was like, I went to another level. I found a new level of trauma that needed dealing with, right? So yay, more trauma. Now it was always there. It's me. It's what I created. My ego. But now it's like, okay, finally we get to come into consciousness, and it's painful and it's contracted and it's tight and it's heavy, right? But I'm working through it. I can sit like a champ, right? It was like, do I want to make this video or just sit in meditation and work on the new ego pain that's coming to my consciousness? Not new, but the newly awoken egoic essence, egoic material that has woken up and is now all in pain and wants to be soothed and brought to consciousness, right? Relaxed. It's very contractive and heavy and dense and painful. And it's all around. It's like in my head, my heart, my shoulders, my back, my torso, my solar plexus. If you even feel it like trying to get into my, it moves around, right? This kind of energy can move around, trying to get into my sciatic nerve. Um, I could feel it like in different part, like joints. I'll feel it, like it'll start aching, and I'll be like, "I know who you are. You can't hide from me. I've studied you for too long. I know what you are. You're the egoic trauma pain. It's really trauma, right? Old trauma that wants to come to consciousness, right? Full consciousness, right? The three, just real quick. I'll make it a whole nother video about this maybe, but three levels of three states of consciousness is the unconscious, sleeping consciousness, numb, right? And what that's all about is like just that kind of consciousness just follow, right? It's full dream state. It's like born into a religion and culture and you don't question it. You just follow. You just go and you're blissfully ignorant, right? That's the sleeping consciousness state. And then the semi-consciousness state is when that wakes up, an event happens and it releases a whole bunch of fear, right? Now that the sleeping consciousness is somewhat awake, but not fully awake, and it's full of fear and full of pain, and it's all the trauma, negative um fear-based consciousness, right? All the negative emotions. And it's a that can shape shift, right? It's not one thing or the other. It's not like fear stays fear will shift into every single different negative emotion it can, right? And the more time it has to do that, the more complicated the negative emotion can be. And it can be all kinds of things, but like every single negative emotion is fear-based. It's all just semi-consciousness, semi-awake. Um, and that's like the rebel, the anarchist, a lot of like the questioners of society, the angry people. It's going to be very emotional driven. They think they understand things because they have slightly more consciousness than the fully asleep people. They're like, I was like that, now I'm awake, right? But they're only a little bit awake, right? It's the consciousness that's like it has some sort of ideology or philosophy, but it's very half baked and it's really emotionally driven. Um, and it's angry and aggressive and it's like I'm coming from a good place because there's consciousness here. It's just not really fully evolved, right? And you see this is the protesters, the angry people, the freaks, the all the sort of people who are just not they're doing some questioning, but they're probably not coming up with the right answers, right? And it's still a lot of following too, because there's still a lot of a sleepiness there. And then the full awakeness is, where that the fear consciousness comes into the full light of consciousness, and it becomes fully illumined or awakened. And that's wisdom, that's intelligence, that's when somebody has fully awakened all their consciousness, and they're an enlightened being, right? But when we have like a mixture, that's what most people are. Some awaken, consciousness, some semi-consciousness, some completely asleep consciousness, and that's your average person, right? So it's not like I'm not trying to oversimplify and be like, oh, this person's completely asleep, this person's completely full of fear. Nobody's full of completely like, really traumatized people will have a lot of that semi-common consciousness within them, but it's always a mix, right? Anyway, so there's that, and that really brings us up to date. So yeah, I've been going through tremendous spaces and tremendous growth and spiritual growth, and so far this year has really just been about spirituality for me. Like, if I thought it was about anything else, I was wrong. And even in the solar return, it's like when two planets are cazimi, well, cazimi is usually related to the sun when a planet's conjunct the sun, but like any two planets that are conjunct, it's like self, right? It's not like two people, because when you have two planets that are close to each other, that's like a relationship, right? So it's like if sun is a few degrees away from Venus, that's like a relationship. And yes, that because of the sun's nature, there's combustion. But when it's cazimi, when any two planets are come together like that, it's about a unification. That's no separation. Therefore, it's about the self. So when I see Sun conjunct Venus, there's no relationship there. It's not like, oh, I'm going to meet the love of my life. It's actually about, at least for me, and maybe it could be, but I doubt it. Right? I think really it's about like the individual. Right? So this year for me with Sun Cazimi Venus, it's like about me. It's me, me. This is my year for like really awakening the heart. And that's so far what it's been like. Just like I've just been through tremendous, and still going through it, but it's alleviated a lot. But that's why I haven't been able to make astrology videos. And like astrology right now, like I'm not a, like I love astrology, but I it's just not drawing my attention, and I'm just I don't want to I don't want to lie to anyone. I don't want to be inauthentic. Like I'm not just gonna make video. I'm not gonna go to work about astrology, which is what it would be. I know, like, yeah, I need the money, I need the for readings, but I just have to be real and I have to be authentic. Otherwise, it's not going to be good for anyone, right? It's not going to be good for you. It's not going to be good for me, right? And so I'm not making videos on astrology right now. I may in the future, but I want to. But what do want to talk about is things like God and spirituality, because I think that's super important right now. If you look around the world, we're definitely in a phase of transformation and evolution. Humanity is, right? Like this great awakening, the 3D to 5D, Earth's ascension, all of that. That really resonates with me. I feel that. I feel it. I feel it's real. I've heard it again and again and again from different sources, Dolores Cannon, but also all these NDEers, right? Right. And when they're all, getting pulled up to heaven, coming back individually with very similar messages, right? These people they probably are communicating, but it's like they're having real experiences, right? And they're knowing stuff that they can't know otherwise, right? And it's all been documented. Anyway, it's real. I believe it. They know things that they couldn't know, right? Otherwise, and they're coming up with similar stuff. Like this really like the time like of huge change, and it's not just humans. It's like the whole Earth is ascending into a new vibration, new vibrational frequency, and so I think we need to connect with God and spirituality and our higher self and a higher vibration, right? And all that's real. God's real. I mean, I believed in God before. I knew, I was always very in touch with God. I've had a spiritual past since I was, well, my whole life. But like, I met like my teacher at age 27, and Vanessa Stone, and she's been a tremendous inspiration for me. And she's all about God. So, um, yeah, but it just really came alive for me this year. So, in light of that, I do want to try to talk about spirituality and spiritual texts and like, but so what I want to do is I'm going to read from the Bible. Now, I'm not religious. I'm not a Christian. I'm a Jew ethnically, but I'm not a religious Jew. Um, I believe Jesus was a very important figure in human history and life. And who is he? What is he? I don't I can tell you what I don't believe. I don't believe that Jesus was this figure that we need to say Jesus, Jesus, Jesus in order to go to heaven. And the NDE years also definitely bring that same message, right? Like God, Jesus, no, nobody needs um and if that's your path, that's fine, but don't be like, oh, anyone who doesn't go around saying Jesus, Jesus, Jesus isn't going to heaven. That's not true. That's not real. That's false. And so I'm not a part of that at all. I do believe Jesus was a master. How he relates to other spiritual masters, I don't know, and I'm not interested. And I don't want to be any part of like Jesus was, the only son of God, and all the other ones were nothing, blah blah. I hate that. In fact, like I think it's disgusting, right? It's really low vibrational dogma bullshit, and it just scares more people away than anything, right? So I'm not into that at all. Jesus was a divine spiritual master. Was he like, is he like, the king of heaven? Maybe. I don't know though. I just don't know, right? But I believe that they like all the spiritual masters up in heaven, they love each other and they're not fighting at all. They're like, they're brothers, they're sisters, they're family, they love each other, right? So that's what I do know. And that's what's really important, to love one another, right? So when religions want to be like, we have the truth, we're the right religion, and all the other religions suck, I'm not a part of that at all, right? So I just want to clarify that, like, just because I'm reading from the Bible doesn't mean I'm all of a sudden a born again Christian or anything like that. You want to call me Christian? Fine. I don't really care. I'm Christian, I'm a Jew, I'm a Buddhist, I'm Hindu, I'm all of it, and I'm none of it because I'm not religious. But let's see, where's the screen? All right. So I'm going to read the Bible. And all right, so we're just going to do the beginning. We're going to do the beginning up to Adam and Eve today. And, I'm going to try and do a little bit every day or every video and see how far I get. And I can't promise I'm going to get through all of the Bible, but I'm going to try to read as much as seems appropriate. And I've never read it before. I'm not a scholar. I haven't spent my life studying this stuff. Um, so all of my takes are going to be pretty fresh, even though I've studied spirituality. I just, yeah, never read the Bible that much. Partially just because I didn't like the religious stuff, and I still don't like the religious stuff. And anyone who thinks I'm going to be like, I'm on my path to becoming a Christian or religious, nonsense. Like you could think that and you'd be wrong, right? Definitely not. God, yes. Religion, no. Jesus, I love Jesus, right? Like I love Jesus. I love his teachings. I also love Buddha. I love his teachings. I love Lao Tzu. I love his teachings, right? I love all the spiritual masters and their teachings. So let's just leave it at that. All right, let's look at the beginning. The beginning. And I don't even know what the NV, I don't know. Anyway, it's just some Bible version. In the beginning, God created the heavens and earth. Now the earth was formless and empty, darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And obviously, if this is not for you, then tune out, right? Just go do something else. Um, and God said, let there be light, and there was light. God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from darkness. So that's interesting that what we have here is that there's darkness originally. So darkness is the origin. And then out of that, and God exists within the darkness, right? There's the darkness and then there's God. And God, could we really say that there's two? God was darkness at that point, right? And listen, if you go to church and you study this stuff and you're like, or um, because obviously this is the Old Testament, so like, Jews study this as well in the Hebrew originally. Um, and you have your own interpretation, that's fine. This is my fresh interpretation, just so. But it's all valid and it's all valuable. And I'm not an orthodox kind of person. I'm not interested in what like the consensus is. I really give a flying fuck about the fucking consensus. So if you're like, well, all the scholars agree that this means that, I'm like, go fuck yourself. I don't give a fuck. Like this is my interpretation, right? And I'm entitled to it because I'm a child of God. I can read it for myself. Right? So anyway, and God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God saw that light was good, and He separated light from darkness. So now we have darkness first, originally, God and darkness, and then light. Light comes after darkness, right? And that also, I mean, that parallels our own development, right? First we're dark, then we're light. We go from darkness to light. That's how we grow, right? The light is the light of consciousness. The darkness is the darkness of unconsciousness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. And God said, "Let there be a vault between the waters, so separate water from water." That's interesting because and a lot of these, obviously, the Old Testament was not written in English, written in Hebrew. And vault is an interesting choice of words, and as well as separate water from water, right? Because we know water in, the rain, the oceans, the lakes. It's not the same as what is outer space, right? But it's interesting. He's the wording is water from water because there must be some similarity there. And the flat earthers will be like, yes, water outside like the dome of the sky, whatever. No, it's not the same. It's not the same water, right? We have to learn if you're going to read any of these old texts, you have to be a little bit flexible with your thinking, right? Not so rigid and dogmatic. Like your mind should not be a brick. It should not be like a box of rocks. It should be like a aerated, spongy, freshly baked loaf of bread, right? You want a lot of air in there, right? And that will allow you to think in very flexible ways so you can understand these things better. He's saying there's something similar about what's out there in outer space to the water. It's water-like, right? It's fluid. Right? So God made the vault and separated water under the vault from the water above it, and it was so. It's not H2O. We do not have H2O above our atmosphere. And the planets are round. They're all round. It's not flat. Yeah. And it was so. God called the vault sky, and there was evening, and there was morning the second day. And God said, "Let the water under the sky be gathered to one place, and let dry ground appear." And it was so. God called the dry ground land, and the gathered waters He called seas. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let the land produce vegetation, seed-bearing plants and trees on the land that bear fruit with seed in it, according to their various kinds." And it was so. The land produced vegetation, plants bearing seed according to their kinds, and trees bearing fruit with seed in it according to their kinds. And God saw that it was good. And so plants are the first, vegetation are the first life that God created. I'm paraphrasing. I'm talking out loud. So He created. Let's go back. So He created. So there's darkness, and there was light, which produced day and night, and then there's the atmosphere, air, and there was water. So water below and water above, which is not H2O. It's just water light. It's fluid. It's space. And so God made the vault and separated the water under the vault, the water above it. And God called the vault sky. And it was evening. And it was morning. And then He made land. And then He made vegetables, vegetation, trees, and all the berry fruits and all that. Plants bearing seeds according to their kinds, and trees bearing fruit with seed in it according to their kinds. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening, and there was morning the third day. And God said, "Let there be lights in the vault of the sky to separate the day from the night." So this is interesting. God said, "Let there be lights in the vault of the sky." Lights, not a singular, lights, numerous lights in the vault. The vault meaning the sky, the vault of the sky, to separate the day from night, and let them serve as signs to mark sacred times and days and years. What does that sound like? That's astrology right there. Astrology is right in Genesis, Let it be known. Astrology is right in Genesis. Let there be lights in the vault of the sky to separate the day from the night, and let them serve as signs to mark sacred times and days and years. What other thing? What lights in the sky can mark sacred times? What is that? It's astrology. Come on. And you hear these like dogmatic, like that their brain is made of, it's a box full of rocks, is their brains, and they're like, God is not this, and God's not that, and God's not astrology, and God's not that. Um, Listen, it's in Genesis. I mean, come on, right? And the three astrologers came to baby Jesus, by the way. So anyway, astrology not being godly or, divine, nonsense. God made astrology, and it's right in Genesis. Sacred times and days and years. And let them be lights in the vault of the sky to give light on earth. And it was so. God made two great lights, the greater light to govern the day, the sun, and the lesser light to govern the night, the moon. He also made the stars. God set them in the vault of the sky to give light on the earth, to govern the day and the night, and to separate light from darkness. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the fourth day. And God said, let the water teem with living creatures, and let birds fly across the earth, let the birds fly above the earth across the vault of the sky. So now we have fish and creatures of the sea and birds. So God created the great creatures of the sea and every living thing with which the water teems and that moves about in it, according to their kind, and every winged bird according to its kind. God saw that it was good. God blessed them and said, be fruitful and increase in number and fill the water in the seas and let the birds increase on the earth. And there was evening and there was morning, the fifth day. And God said, let the land produce living creatures according to their kinds, the livestock, the creatures that move around the ground, and the wild animals, each according to its kind. And it was so. God made the wild animals according to their kinds, the livestock according to their kinds, and all the creatures that move along the ground according to their kinds. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish in the sea, and the birds in the sky, over the livestock and all the wild animals, and over all the creatures that moved along the ground. So man is the last thing, and he made, and here's God said, let's make mankind in our image. That's important. Let us make mankind. Why is God saying our image? Why does God say our image? Is God one or many? Now that's a real question. And it's not one that it's not the first time I've asked this question. I mean, somebody else is pointing this out also. It's not mine. But let us make mankind in our image. Why does he say our image? Who is God? What is God? Right? In any of these studies, this is just a general rule. The questions are more important than the answers, right? And if you study Zen or Advaita Vedanta, you will quickly learn that the question is more important than the answer, right? The question will provide many answers, but don't throw away the question once you get an answer, right? Just a simple answer. Like you can get many, many answers, each one, more illuminating than the next, if you hold on to the question and really stick with it. So, if I'm ever asking a question, it's not meant to just be given an answer and just dropped, right? The question is not even for your mind. The question is for your soul, because your soul has intelligence. And if you give a question to your soul, you're going to get more than one answer and very profound, deep answers, deeper and deeper and deeper answers. Your soul is going to be working on that question and getting deeper and deeper and deeper into the core of the essence of that, of what it means, right? So give questions to your soul. Don't just let your mind answer them and then to be like, I already know the answer to that. I already know the answer. Blah, so it's written in the book. Blah, blah, blah. That's not an answer. That's just garbage. That's just feeding yourself nonsense so that you won't actually go through the process of answering the question again and again and again, right? So when I say, what is God, right? And in light of this, that's a question to just hold on to. Don't answer it. You can have answers, but don't throw away the question. Be like, okay, well, that was an interesting answer. Let's keep exploring, see what other answers I can come up with, right? What other answers my soul is going to come up with and then reveal to me. Let us make mankind in our image. I mean, is God one or many? It's God. God can be whatever he wants, right? It's not even a he, right? But it's like God could be many. He could be our, right? Or he could be one, right? And because of that, and that's the thing. And like in our essence, we are the light of God, right? Like the light, our consciousness, the light of consciousness is the light of God, right? So we are an extension of God, and we are different because we have different experiences. Like we have like a, you know, but that's part of it, right? And that's going down a tangent, right? We have our uniquenesses through the various experiences we encounter, and that's why I'm like, I'm me and I'm not you. But essentially, when underneath all the experiences, we're exactly the same. We're all exactly the same. We are the light of consciousness, the light of God, right? So let's make mankind in our image, right? Here he's calling himself plural because God can do whatever God wants to do, right? Right. So plural, singular, it's all the same. It's all consciousness, right? God divides himself into a billion humans and like, billions and billions and billions of other creatures, right? It's all God. So then we rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, over the livestock and wild animals, and over all the creatures that move along the ground. So God created mankind in his own image. So here we have the singular again. His, interesting, his, because God is not male or female, but interesting that they chose his. Why is God his? This is not the answer, it's an answer. And partly because of the duality of darkness and light, that God was the darkness, but God also is the light, right? And so I think when it's talking about his, it's referring to God as the light, right? Because that's the masculine side principle, right? Also, when in polarity to the earth's creating our body, our physicality. This is like the mother aspect, right? Our physicality, whereas our consciousness is the God aspect, the fatherly aspect, right? So there's that, right? Like heaven and earth, right? Heaven is up there, earth is here, right? It's similar to that, right? So that is why I believe there's this tendency to call God the Father or use his pronouns for it because it's like that light that we associate with God, even though God is also the darkness. It's like the light shines over the darkness, and we can get to the darkness, and that's like the feminine aspect of God. But like the light aspect is the masculine. And then also like the earth itself, the physicality, the mother earth, and our bodies come from the mother earth, right? Right. We eat food and it's literally from the earth. All right. So there's that. Um, in the image of God. And so why are we created in the image of God? Or why is God created in this image? I mean that's a mystery. That's like a profound well, one thing you can say is like, well, when the sun um shines its radiation on the earth, it produces something like in this image of a body. Go look at it. The electromagnetic radiation that's coming off the earth because of the winds. It's like there's a head above the earth and then a long body flowing down below the earth. It looks just like a human being or an angel, really, right? So there's that image. So that's part of it. And in the image of God, he created them, male and female, he created them. Two genders, interesting. Not 50 million genders there. All right. God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and increase in number, fill the earth and subdue it, rule over the fish and sea and the birds in the sky, and over every living creature that moves on the ground. I'm not going to be too sort of pedantic about the words because again, these words are translated. They're not the real words. So like if somebody wants to be like, and they said subdue it or whatever. I don't know. People are very dogmatic about the Bible. I'm not. So anyway, I just take it all very lightly and try and understand the essence of it. Then God said, I give you every seed-bearing plant on the face of the whole earth and every tree that has fruit with seed in it. That's really significant, and I think partly because he doesn't say, I give you all the meat. The first thing he says doesn't forbid meat, right? And I'm not a vegan, right? So I'm not against meat, but he says the first thing that we're to eat as food is seed-bearing plants and um every tree that has fruit with seed in it. He wants us to eat the tree, not the fruit. I'm just kidding. He wants to eat the fruit. It'd be funny if he wanted us to eat trees, but no. Um, he wants us to eat the fruit with the seed in it. But why the seed? Right? Because when we read on, it says, they will be yours for food, and to all the beasts of the earth, and all the birds in the sky, and all the creatures that move along the ground, everything that has the breath of life in it, I give every green plant for food. And it was so. And why does it say, so like the creatures of the earth, he gives green plants? Okay, that's fine. But for humans, he says every seed-bearing plant and every tree that has fruit with seed in it. And I think the significance is the seed in that, energetically speaking, if you study food like I have, you know that food affects our consciousness, right? This is not, I mean, a lot of people know this traditionally or in modern times, right? If you don't know it, I suggest you look into it because it's true, it's real. Food affects our consciousness, whether you like it or not. It affects it. It affects everything. It affects our body. It affects our health. It affects our thoughts, our emotions, the way we look, right? And so I think there's something about the seed, being that it's the essence of life, and that a whole plant is contained in the seed, and that so that if we eat seeds, that we are getting this kind of like a very concentrated message, right? Information, concentrated packet of information, right? We're getting a whole plant in a very tiny, compact form, and so because of that, there's this energetic quality of information. It relates to our brain, right? So it fuels, brain capacity. Grains are seeds, right? Beans are seeds, nuts and seeds, and yeah, these are all seeds, right? They're all, and so they have this quality of life-givingness because a seed can germinate and grow into a plant. So you're eating something very concentrated when you're eating the seed-bearing plant, when you're eating the seed of the seed-bearing plant, right? And it's not to say that, we shouldn't eat other things as well, but the seeds are very important. And I think that's one of it's why it's stressing it here. Seed-bearing plant, fruit with seed in it. And then for the other animals, they can eat grass, right? Just eat the grass, eat the leaves, which we also eat. We don't eat grass, but we eat, leaves and plants, and that's also good. But like, it's not saying that the animals should eat the seed-bearing plants or the seeds themselves. God saw all that he made, and it was very good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the sixth day. Thus the heavens and earth were completed in all their vast array. By the seventh day, God had finished the work he had been doing. So on the seventh day, he rested from all his work. That's the Sabbath. Then God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it he rested from all the work of creating that he had done. So that's the Sabbath. That's why the Jews don't work on Saturday, and that's why it's a holy day for the Jews because of this. And for another video, I'll read about Adam and Eve. And it'll be super exciting. I know some of this, people may not be interested in a lot of this stuff, but sorry. You know what I mean? Like, can't please everyone. But I think a lot of people are interested in it. And I don't know if they'll be interested in my version of it, my interpretation, but whatever. I can only do you know, what feels right for me. And so, yeah, I definitely feel the call to talk about God and spirituality much more. So that's probably what I'm going to be doing from here on out, or for at least a little while. And hey guys, so that's pretty much it. I I've really been called to sit for a long time and meditate and clear myself out and really awaken as much as myself as I can, elevate my consciousness so that I can be one of the people who shine the light for others to help elevate the group consciousness of this planet. Right. So yeah, that's it for now. I will see you guys again soon. Hit that like button, leave a comment down below, subscribe if you haven't already. And all right, guys. See ya. Bye.